They called her broken, worthless, a wolf without a soul. But when the most powerful alpha in the frozen north began to die, screaming as his own beast tore him apart from the inside, only she could touch him, only she could stop the agony, and in that single forbidden moment, everything changed. Stay until the end to see how a rejected Omega became the queen who rewrote destiny. Drop a comment with the city you're watching from and hit that like button. You won't believe where this story goes. The wind howled through the stone citadel like a dying wolf's last breath. Naira Vale pressed herself against the cold granite wall of the servants' corridor, her bare feet silent on the frozen floor. Through the narrow gap in the tapestry, she could see into the grand hall, where the most powerful wolves in the northern territories had gathered in a circle of dread. At the center, Alpha King Kyle Draven was dying. Not quietly, not with dignity, but writhing on the obsidian throne like a man possessed, his massive frame shaking as invisible claws ripped through his soul. His eyes, those legendary silver eyes that had brought a dozen rival packs to their knees, now rolled back white as his wolf tore itself apart from within. "Hold him!" Lord Varric, the king's younger brother, shouted to the guards. 6 of the strongest warriors in the kingdom struggled to keep Kyle from throwing himself off the throne. His roar shook the chandelier above, a sound that was neither human nor wolf, but something terrible in between. Naira's fingers dug into the stone. She shouldn't be here. Servants, especially her, were forbidden from witnessing royal business. If they caught her, it would mean the whip. Or worse. But she couldn't look away. "The healers have failed," Elder Morna announced, her ancient voice cutting through the chaos. She stood at the base of the throne, her white hair braided with wolf bones, her expression grim. "Every medicine, every spell, every prayer. Nothing touches this curse." "Then find someone who can," Varric snarled. His amber eyes blazed with barely controlled fury. Though whether it was fear for his brother or hunger for the crown, Naira couldn't tell. He is the Alpha King. He cannot fall to some phantom disease. "It's not a disease." The voice came from the king himself. Everyone froze. Kael's head lifted slowly, his neck corded with strain. Sweat poured down his face despite the winter cold. When he spoke, his voice was raw, broken. "It's punishment." "Punishment?" Varric stepped closer. "For what?" Kael's laugh was bitter, edged with madness. "For being what we are. For thinking we could rule without consequence." His body convulsed again, harder this time. The guards lost their grip. The king crashed to the floor, his claws, half shifted, caught between man and beast, raking across the obsidian, leaving gouges in solid stone. Naira's heart clenched. She had seen suffering before, too much of it. But this was different. This was an alpha in his prime, a warrior who had never known defeat, reduced to writhing like a broken thing on his own throne room floor. And something inside her recognized it. "Get the silver chains," Elder Morna commanded. "If we can't heal him, we must contain him, before his wolf takes full control and slaughters us all." "No!" Kael's hand shot out, gripping the elder's ankle with inhuman strength. "No chains! I won't die in chains like an animal." "You're already dying, brother." Varric's voice had gone cold, clinical. "At least die with honor. Let us—" "I said no!" The roar that followed wasn't entirely human. The windows along the hall exploded inward, showering the assembly with ice and broken glass. Wolves dove for cover. The guards released Kael completely, scrambling back as his body arched impossibly, bones cracking, reshaping, trying to shift but unable to complete the transformation. Stuck, trapped between 2 forms, tearing himself apart. Nira's breath caught. She knew that feeling, not the physical agony but the spiritual one. The sensation of being caught between what you were and what you were supposed to be, unable to reach either, suspended in a prison of your own flesh. She knew it because she'd lived it for 6 years, ever since the night her pack had declared her broken. Omega without a wolf, they'd called her. Empty vessel, cursed blood. She'd been 14 when her wolf should have emerged. Every Omega in her birth pack had shifted by 13, some as early as 11. But Naira's wolf never came. Month after month, year after year, she'd waited in agony as her peers transformed, found their place in the hierarchy, while she remained nothing. Not quite human, not quite wolf, just a hollow girl with silver eyes that marked her as pack-born, but no beast to prove it. Her father, a mid-ranking hunter, had tried to hide his shame. Her mother had wept in private. But when Naira turned 16 and still showed no sign of shifting, the pack's patience had run out. "She's a drain on resources," the elders had declared. "Dead weight. We cannot afford to feed a wolfless Omega." They'd cast her out on her 17th birthday. No ceremony, no farewell, just a boot to the ribs and a warning never to return. She'd wandered for weeks, half-starved, until a merchant caravan had taken pity on her and brought her north to the stone citadel. The Alpha King's household, they said, sometimes hired outcasts for menial work. No questions asked. No pack bonds required. It had been a lie, of course. The citadel did ask questions, but Naira had learned to keep her head down, her mouth shut, and her strange silver eyes hidden beneath a tangle of dark hair. She scrubbed floors, hauled firewood, emptied chamber pots. The other servants mocked her, broken little Omega, but at least they fed her. For 6 years she had survived on the edges of wolf society, invisible and forgotten. Until tonight. Until she'd seen the Alpha King dying of something that looked almost like her own curse. "Bring the healer from the eastern mountains," Varric was shouting now. "Send riders to the coast. Someone, somewhere must know how to stop this. There's no time." Elder Morna's voice cracked. "Look at him!" Kale was seizing now, his body jerking violently against the floor. Foam flecked his lips. His eyes had gone completely white, pupils vanished. The sound coming from his throat was no longer a roar, but a wet, rattling wheeze. He was drowning in his own wolf. "Please," Kael gasped. "Please, someone, make it stop." The plea shattered something in Nira's chest. She didn't think, didn't plan, didn't consider the consequences. She simply moved. The tapestry tore as she shoved through it, stumbling into the grand hall. Every head whipped toward her, a servant, a lowly Omega servant, interrupting a royal crisis. "Who?" Varric started, but Naira was already running, across the obsidian floor, past the shocked elders, through the circle of guards who were too stunned to stop her, straight to the dying king. "Don't touch him!" Elder Morna screamed. "Girl, his wolf will kill you!" Nira dropped to her knees beside Kael's convulsing form. Up close, the damage was worse. His skin was gray, veins bulging black beneath the surface. His claws had torn through his own chest, leaving deep gouges that bled silver instead of red. Cursed blood, just like the old story said. "I'm sorry," Nira whispered. To him, to herself, to whatever force had driven her to this insane moment. And then she placed her hand on his heart. The reaction was instantaneous. Kael's entire body went rigid. His eyes snapped open, no longer white but blazing silver, locked onto hers with an intensity that stole her breath. The hall fell silent. The convulsions stopped. The terrible bone-deep wrongness that had been radiating from the Alpha King simply ceased. Nira felt it too, a jolt of recognition so profound it made her gasp. Like two broken pieces of a shattered mirror suddenly aligned, reflecting something whole for the first time in years. Heat flooded through her palm. Not painful, not burning, just right. As if her hand had been made to rest exactly here, against this man's chest, feeling the thunderous beat of his heart beneath scarred skin. Kael's hand shot up and clamped around her wrist, not to push her away, to hold her there. "You," he breathed. His voice was ruined, scraped raw, but his eyes were clear, focused, sane. "You're—" He couldn't finish, didn't need to, because Naira felt it too. The pull, the bond, the impossible, undeniable truth singing through her veins like a song she'd forgotten she knew. Mate. The word echoed in her mind. Not her voice, but something older, wilder, rising from a place inside her that she'd thought was empty forever. Mate. 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 "No." Elder Morna's voice was barely a whisper. "That's not possible." But it was happening. Right there, in front of the entire court, the Alpha King's eyes began to shift, not white with madness, but glowing with the rich amber of recognition, of claiming. His claws retracted, his breathing steadied. The silver veins beneath his skin faded to normal. And when he sat up, pulling Naira with him, his grip gentle but unbreakable, his voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. Mine! The word dropped into the hall like a stone into still water, rippling outward, unstoppable. Naira opened her mouth to protest, to explain, to say anything. But Kael moved faster. He cupped the back of her head with his free hand, tangled his fingers in her hair, and kissed her. Not gently, not carefully, but with the desperate, claiming hunger of a dying man given one last breath of air. And Naira, broken, wolfless, worthless Naira, kissed him back. Because the moment his lips touched hers, something inside her chest cracked open. A presence she'd mourned as dead suddenly stirred. Her wolf, not gone, not broken, hidden. The realization hit her the same moment Kael's wolf recognized her, and suddenly the kiss became something more. A bond snapping into place with the force of destiny. Her vision blurred gold. Heat raced down her spine. For the first time in her life, Naira felt the brush of fur beneath her skin, felt claws ache at her fingertips, felt the howl building in her lungs. "Stop this!" Varek's roar shattered the moment. Kael pulled back, but kept Naira tucked against his chest. His arm locked around her waist, protective, possessive. Varek stood before the throne, his face twisted with fury. "Brother, have you lost your mind? She's a servant, a nobody. You cannot claim. I can claim whoever my wolf recognizes." Kael's voice was steady now, strong, the voice of a king. "And my wolf has chosen." "Your wolf is cursed," Varek jabbed a finger toward Naira. "Look at her. She's not even marked. No pack scent, no bond markings. No, she's probably not even a real Omega." "She is my mate." Kael rose to his feet, pulling Naira up with him. "That is all that matters." Elder Morna stepped forward, her ancient face grave. "My king, I understand the pull of a mate bond, but we must be cautious. This girl appeared from nowhere. The moment she touched you, the curse stopped. That's not natural, it's magic," Varek finished. "Dark magic. She's tricked you, bewitched you to think she's your mate when really she's just saving his life?" Naira's voice was quiet, but it cut through Varek's rant like a blade. Everyone stared at her. She hadn't meant to speak. Servants didn't speak in the grand hall. But something in Varek's tone, the casual cruelty, the instant assumption of her guilt, ignited a spark of defiance she'd buried for years. Kael's arm tightened around her waist, not restraining, supporting. Naira lifted her chin and met Varek's glare. "I didn't bewitch anyone. I didn't use magic. I just touched him, and it helped. That's all I know." "Convenient," Varek sneered. "A powerless little nobody just happens to cure our dying king with a touch? Forgive me if I don't believe in fairy tales." "Enough!" Kael's voice carried the weight of command. "Varek, you will treat my mate with respect, or you will leave this hall." Varek's jaw worked. For a moment, Naira thought he might actually challenge his brother right there. But then his gaze flicked to the guards, to the watching elders, and he forced a tight smile. "Of course, brother. Forgive my concern." He bowed stiffly. "I only want what's best for the kingdom." "Then you'll support my decision." Varek's smile strained. "I will need time to adjust to this development." "You have until dawn." Kael's tone left no room for argument. "We will formalize the bond at first light. Spread the word. Prepare for a mating ceremony." Gasps rippled through the hall. A mating ceremony. For a king and a servant. Unheard of. Elder Morna looked like she'd swallowed glass. "My king, perhaps we should wait. Test the girl. Make sure she's truly She is mine." Kael's eyes flashed amber. "My wolf knows. That's enough." "But the curse is held at bay as long as she's near me." Kael glanced down at Naira, and something softened in his expression. "Isn't it?" Naira realized he was asking her, trusting her to tell the truth. She swallowed hard and nodded. I think so. When I touched you, I felt something, like a door closing, or a wall going up. The thing that was hurting you, it's still there, but it can't reach you, not while I'm here." Kael finished. His hand found hers, their fingers lacing together. While you're here, the bond hummed between them, tangible as a physical touch. Naira's wolf stirred again, stronger now, closer to the surface. After 6 years of silence, the sensation was overwhelming, terrifying. Right. This is madness, someone muttered in the crowd. The king's lost his mind, another whispered, but Kael ignored them all. He turned to Elder Morna, his expression implacable. Prepare the ceremony. At dawn, I claim my mate before the pack. Anyone who has a problem with that can challenge me directly. No one moved. No one dared. Because even weakened by a curse, even barely recovered from the brink of death, Kael Draven was still the Alpha King, and his word was law. Elder Morna bowed her head. As you command, my king. Varric said nothing, but the look he shot Nira as he turned to leave was pure poison. Nira shivered. Kael felt it. His arm tightened around her. You're safe, he murmured. I won't let anyone hurt you. Naira wanted to believe him. But as the hall emptied and she was left standing beside a king who'd just upended his entire kingdom for a girl he didn't even know, one truth became painfully clear. Her life had just changed forever, and she had no idea if she'd survive it. 2 hours later, Naira found herself in a room that was larger than any space she'd ever occupied in her life. The king's chambers. Not the king's bedroom. Kael had been adamant about that. You'll have your own space until the ceremony, he'd said. I won't force anything before you're ready. But her own space turned out to be a guest suite attached to the royal wing, complete with a 4-poster bed draped in furs, a private bath with heated water, and a wardrobe full of gowns she'd never have dared to touch as a servant. Nira stood in the middle of it all, shaking. A sharp knock made her jump. It's me, Kael's voice rumbled through the door. May I come in? Nira's heart hammered. Yes. The door opened. Kael stepped inside, and Naira was struck all over again by the sheer size of him. He had to duck slightly to clear the door frame. His shoulders were broad enough to block the light from the hallway. Everything about him screamed dominance, power, alpha, except his eyes, which were looking at her with something almost like gentleness. You're afraid of me, he said quietly. It wasn't a question. Naira wanted to deny it, but she'd never been good at lying. A little, she admitted. Kael nodded. He stayed by the door, giving her space. I won't hurt you, Naira. I need you to believe that. You don't even know me. I know enough. He tilted his head. You risked execution to help a dying stranger. That takes courage. Or stupidity. A smile ghosted across his lips. Maybe both. He sobered. But it saved my life, and for that, I owe you everything. You don't owe me anything, Naira said quickly. You don't have to claim me just because I touched you. If the bond was a mistake, it wasn't. Kael's voice was firm, final. My wolf has never been wrong, and the moment I saw you, I knew. Knew what? That you were the reason I was still alive. He took a slow step closer. The curse has been killing me for 3 months. Every healer in the north tried to stop it. None of them could even touch it. But you. Another step. You walked in, put your hand on my chest, and the pain just stopped. Nira bit her lip. I don't understand how. Neither do I. Kael stopped a few feet away, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. But I intend to find out, and I need you alive and safe to do that. Which means making you my mate isn't just about the bond. It's about protection. Protection from what? From people like Varric. Kael's expression darkened. My brother isn't the only one who'll see you as a threat. The moment I announced our bond, I put a target on your back. Every wolf who wants power, every rival pack, every schemer in this citadel will wonder if they can use you or remove you to weaken me. Cold dread pooled in Nira's stomach. I didn't ask for this. I know. Kael's voice softened. And if there was another way, if I could protect you without binding you to me, I would. But the mate bond is sacred. Once it's formalized, anyone who harms you harms me. Anyone who challenges you challenges the crown. It's the only way to keep you safe. Naira's mind raced. It made a brutal kind of sense. But it also meant she was about to become a queen, a Luna, her, the broken Omega who'd spent 6 years scrubbing floors and dodging insults. It was insane. "What if I say no?" she whispered. Kael went very still. "Then I'll find another way to protect you, but I won't force the bond. Even if it means the curse comes back?" His jaw tightened. Even then. Nira stared at him, searching for the lie, the manipulation, the trap. But all she saw was a man, an alpha, who'd just offered her a choice no one had given her in years. Her wolf stirred, not demanding, not commanding, just present, a warm weight in her chest that felt like home. "If I say yes," Nira said slowly, "what happens?" "At dawn, we stand before the pack. I claim you as my mate. You accept the bond. We—" he hesitated. "We seal it." "Seal it how?" "The traditional way." Kael's gaze held hers. "A mark. My wolf claims yours. It's intimate, but necessary. The bond won't hold without it." Nira's cheeks burned. She'd heard stories, whispers among the Omega servants about mating marks and bonding bites and the other things that happened when wolves claimed each other. "I've never—" she started, then stopped, mortified. Understanding flickered in Kael's eyes. "I know," he said gently, "and I'll make it as easy as I can. I swear." Nira wanted to run, wanted to hide, wanted to go back to being invisible and forgotten, because this was too much, too fast, too impossible. But then she remembered the feel of Kael's heart beneath her palm, the way the curse had recoiled from her touch, the certainty in her wolf's voice when it had whispered mate. What if this wasn't a trap? What if it was a second chance? "Okay," Nira breathed. Kael blinked. "Okay? I'll do it." Her voice shook, but she forced herself to hold his gaze. "I'll accept the bond. At dawn." Something fierce and bright blazed in Kael's eyes. Relief, gratitude, and something deeper that made Nira's pulse race. "Thank you," he said roughly. Then he did something that shocked her. He dropped to one knee. Nira gasped. "What are you—" "You're saving my life," Kael said, looking up at her with an intensity that stole her breath. "You're giving up your freedom, your safety, your future to stand beside a cursed king. The least I can do is kneel." Tears burned Nira's eyes. No one had ever knelt for her. No one had ever treated her like she mattered. "Get up," she whispered. "Please. You're a king. You don't kneel for my mate?" Kael rose smoothly, towering over her again. "I'll kneel as often as she needs to remember she's not alone anymore." The words cracked something open in Nira's chest. Something she'd kept locked and guarded for so long she'd forgotten it was there. Hope. Before she could think better of it, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around Kael's waist. It was awkward. He was so much taller, broader, bigger, but he caught her instantly, his arms coming around her with careful strength. For a moment, they just stood there, two broken souls clinging to each other in the dark. "We'll figure this out," Kael murmured into her hair. "Together." Nira nodded against his chest. "Together." She didn't know if she believed it, but for the first time in 6 years, she wanted to try. Outside the door, Varric Draven pressed his ear to the wood and listened to every damning word. His brother, his fool brother, was actually going through with this. Mating a nobody, a servant girl with no pack, no power, no worth, all because of some pathetic bond his wolf claimed to feel. Varric's lip curled. Kael had always been soft, too honorable, too trusting. It was a wonder he'd held the throne this long without someone putting a knife in his back. But this was the opportunity Varric had been waiting for. A weak mate meant a weak king, and a weak king could be replaced. Varric straightened, smoothing his expression into neutrality as a servant hurried past. He nodded politely, playing the part of the concerned brother. But inside, his mind was already spinning. He'd tried poison, tried curses, tried everything to weaken Kael enough to take the throne without outright murder, because even Varric wasn't stupid enough to kill an alpha king in front of witnesses. But this girl, this Nira, she'd ruined everything. One touch, and Kael's curse had stopped. One kiss, and the bond had snapped into place. Varric didn't believe in fate, he believed in power, and this girl had just become the key to his brother's survival, which meant she needed to disappear, permanently. Varric smiled coldly and turned away from the door. Let Kael have his little ceremony. Let him parade his broken Omega in front of the pack. It would only make her death that much more devastating. And when Kael fell apart from the severed bond, when the curse roared back with a vengeance, when the kingdom teetered on the brink of collapse, Varric would be there, ready to step in, ready to save them all, ready to take what should have been his from the beginning. The throne. Dawn came cold and unforgiving. Nira stood before the mirror in her chambers, barely recognizing the girl staring back. The servants had dressed her in a gown of deep crimson silk, traditional mating colors that clung to her frame like liquid fire. They'd braided her hair with silver thread, painted her lips dark, lined her eyes with kohl until she looked less like a broken Omega and more like something out of legend. But her hands wouldn't stop shaking. "You look beautiful," a soft voice said from the doorway. Nira turned. An older woman stood there, her gray hair streaked with white, her face kind but tired. She wore the simple robes of a palace healer. "I'm Mira," the woman said. "The king sent me to check on you. Make sure you're ready." "I'm not," Nira admitted. Her voice came out small, fragile. Mira stepped inside and closed the door. "No one ever is, child. Mating ceremonies are terrifying even when you've known your partner for years. But you?" She shook her head. "What you're about to do takes more courage than most wolves will ever understand." "Or more stupidity," Nira whispered, echoing Kael's words from the night before. Mira smiled faintly. "Perhaps both." She moved closer, her sharp eyes studying Nira's face. "May I ask you something?" Nira nodded. "When you touched the king yesterday, what did you feel?" The question caught Nira off guard. She expected judgment, suspicion, not genuine curiosity. "I felt," Nira struggled for words, "like I'd found something I didn't know I'd lost, like a missing piece clicking into place." Mira's expression softened. "That's the mate bond. Rare, precious, and utterly undeniable." She reached out and took Nira's trembling hands. "Whatever happens out there today, remember that. The bond chose you, not the king, not the court, the bond itself." "But I'm nobody," Nira whispered. "I don't have a pack. I don't even have a wolf that—" "You have a wolf." Mira's grip tightened. "I can smell her on you. Faint, yes, hidden deep, but she's there, child, and she's been waiting for this moment." Tears pricked Nira's eyes. "How do you know?" "Because I'm old enough to recognize the scent of suppressed power." Mira released her hands. "Someone hurt you once, badly enough that your wolf retreated so deep you thought she was gone. But she never left. She was just protecting you, waiting until you were strong enough to face the world again." Nira's breath caught. No one had ever said that to her. No one had ever suggested her wolf's absence was anything but failure. "And now?" Nira asked. "Now you have an alpha who will protect you while your wolf finds her way back." Mira smiled. "If that's not fate, I don't know what is." A sharp knock shattered the moment. "It's time!" a guard's voice called through the door. Mira's heart slammed against her ribs. Mira squeezed her shoulder once. "Breathe, child. You're stronger than you think." Then she was gone, and Nira was alone with her terror and the crimson gown and the knowledge that in minutes her entire life would change forever. The walk to the Grand Hall felt like a death march. Guards flanked her on either side, not as escorts, but as protection. Even now, they didn't trust her. Their eyes stayed forward, their expressions blank, but Nira could feel their tension, their doubt. Whispers followed her through the corridors. "That's her? The servant girl? She must have bewitched him. There's no other explanation. I heard she's not even a real Omega, just a human pretending—" "Quiet!" one of the guards snapped. But the damage was done. Nira's cheeks burned. Her wolf stirred uneasily, a low growl building in her chest that had nowhere to go. When they reached the Grand Hall doors, Elder Morna was waiting. The old woman's expression was unreadable. "The king waits inside, as does the pack," Her gaze swept over Naira, assessing. This is your last chance to walk away, girl. Once those doors open, there's no turning back. Nira lifted her chin. I know. Do you? Morna stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. You'll be queen, Luna. That means every decision you make, every word you speak, every breath you take will be watched, judged, criticized. And if you fail, if you're weak, if you break, it won't just destroy you. It'll destroy the king, the pack, the entire kingdom. I won't break, Naira said quietly. Morna's eyes narrowed. We'll see. She gestured to the guards. The massive oak doors swung open. The grand hall was packed. Hundreds of wolves filled the space. Warriors, elders, nobles, servants, all turned to stare as Naira stepped inside. The silence was suffocating, hostile. She could feel the weight of their judgment pressing down like a physical force. But then her eyes found Kael. He stood at the center of the hall before the obsidian throne, dressed in ceremonial armor of black steel and fur. His silver eyes locked onto hers, and the rest of the room seemed to fade. He looked magnificent, terrifying, every inch the Alpha King. And he was waiting for her. Naira forced her feet to move. One step, then another. The aisle stretched impossibly long, but she kept her gaze fixed on Kael, using him as an anchor against the sea of hostile faces. When she finally reached him, he extended his hand. She took it. His fingers closed around hers, warm and solid, and the bond hummed to life between them. Stronger now, more real. You came, Kael murmured. I promised I would, Nira whispered back. His lips quirked. I wasn't sure you'd make it past Morna. She tried to scare me. Did it work? Terrified, Nira admitted. But I'm still here. Something fierce blazed in Kael's eyes. Pride, maybe. Or respect. He turned to face the assembled pack, his voice ringing out clear and strong. Wolves of the Stone Citadel, I stand before you today to claim my mate. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Naira felt hundreds of eyes boring into her back. Kael's hand tightened on hers. Her name is Naira Vale. She is Omega-born, packless, and she saved my life when no one else could. Because she cursed you in the first place, a voice shouted from the crowd. Gasps, then angry muttering. Kael's expression darkened. Who said that? No one answered. But Naira saw movement near the back, a figure slipping behind a pillar. Coward, Kael growled. He raised his voice. If anyone has accusations, speak them now, to my face. Silence. Then Varric stepped forward. Naira's stomach dropped. Kael's brother moved with calculated grace, his amber eyes fixed on Nira with barely concealed contempt. Brother, I have no accusations, only concerns. State them, Kael said flatly. Varric gestured to Naira. This girl appeared from nowhere. She has no pack bonds, no lineage we can verify, no proof of who or what she claims to be. And the moment she touched you, your curse, a curse that has defied every healer in the north, simply stopped. He paused. Don't you find that suspicious? I find it miraculous, Kael said. Or convenient. Varric's smile was cold. What if she's working for our enemies? What if the curse and the cure are both part of the same trap? You bind yourself to her, and the moment the bond is sealed, she triggers the curse again. Or worse. Angry voices rose in agreement. He's right. We can't trust her. Test her first. Kael's hand became a vice around Nira's. Enough. His roar silenced the hall. I am your Alpha King. My wolf knows its mate. That is the only test that matters. With respect, brother, Varric said smoothly, your wolf is cursed. How do we know it's making sound decisions? The hall erupted. Naira stood frozen as wolves shouted over each other, demanding tests, calling for her blood, some even suggesting she be thrown in the dungeons until her true nature could be determined. Silence! Elder Morna's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. The room fell quiet. The old woman stepped forward, her expression grave. Lord Varric raises valid concerns. We cannot afford to gamble the king's life and the kingdom's stability on an untested bond. Kael's jaw clenched. Morna? However, Morna continued, I also cannot deny what I witnessed yesterday. The girl's touch stopped the curse. That suggests a connection, whether it's a mate bond or something darker. She turned to Naira. There is a way to know for certain. Nira's blood ran cold. What way? The trial of truth. Morna's eyes glittered. An ancient rite. If you are truly the king's mate, your bond will withstand it. If you are false, if you carry dark magic or deception, the trial will expose you. No, Kale said immediately. The trial of truth hasn't been performed in a century. It's barbaric. It's traditional, Varric interrupted, and necessary. If this girl is genuine, she has nothing to fear. The crowd murmured in agreement. Nira looked between Kyle and Morna, her heart pounding. What does the trial involve? Morna's expression was unreadable. You will be taken to the sacred chamber beneath the citadel. There you will face 3 tests of loyalty, of truth, and of sacrifice. If you pass all 3, the bond will be recognized as genuine. If you fail, she didn't finish. She could die, Kael said flatly. That's what you're not saying. The trial of truth has killed Omegas before. Only those who are false, Morna replied, or those who were too weak to survive your barbaric tests. Kael's eyes flashed amber. I won't risk her life to satisfy your paranoia. Then you risk the kingdom, Varric said quietly. Brother, I understand you care for her, but can you truly ask the pack to accept an untested mate, to trust a stranger with the throne, with your life? Kael's silence was answer enough. Naira felt the weight of the moment crushing down on her. Every eye in the hall was watching, waiting, judging. She could walk away, refuse the trial, run back to the shadows where she belonged, but then Kael would die. The curse would return. He'd suffer. And she'd spend the rest of her life knowing she could have saved him, but chose safety instead. I'll do it, Nira said quietly. Kael's head whipped toward her. No, Naira, I'll take the trial. She met his gaze, her voice steadier than she felt. If it's the only way to prove I'm not a threat, then I'll do it. You don't have to prove anything, Kael said urgently. He cupped her face in his hands, his thumb brushing her cheek. You saved my life, that's enough. Not for them. Nira glanced at the watching crowd. And not for the kingdom. You said it yourself, I need protection, but I can't be protected if everyone thinks I'm dangerous. She looked back at him. So I'll prove I'm not. I'll take the trial, and I'll pass. Kael's expression twisted with something between pride and anguish. You could die. So could you, if I don't. Nira forced a small smile. Besides, I'm tougher than I look. For a long moment, Kael just stared at her. Then he pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers, his voice dropping to a whisper only she could hear. If anything happens to you, I will burn this entire citadel to the ground. Naira's breath caught. Nothing will happen. Promise me. I promise. It was a lie, and they both knew it, but Kael released her anyway, turning to face Elder Morna with barely controlled fury. If she's harmed, if one hair on her head is damaged unnecessarily, I will hold you personally responsible. Morna bowed her head. The trial is sacred, my king. I will oversee it personally to ensure fairness. See that you do. Kael's voice was ice. Then Varric stepped forward, that cold smile still playing on his lips. A wise decision, brother. The pack will be grateful to see the truth revealed. Naira wanted to slap the smugness off his face, but before she could speak, Morna gestured to a pair of guards. Take her to the sacred chamber. We begin immediately. Wait, Kael said sharply. At least give her time to prepare. The trial waits for no one, Morna said. The longer we delay, the more doubt festers. Better to proceed now, while the pack is gathered. Kael looked ready to argue, but Nira touched his arm. It's okay, she whispered. I can do this. Naira, trust me. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning, because trust was what this was all about, wasn't it? Trust that she was who she claimed. Trust that the bond was real. Trust that she wouldn't break under pressure. Kael's jaw worked. Then he nodded once, sharp and pained. The guards moved in. Nira let them take her arms, let them lead her away from the only person in this entire citadel who'd shown her kindness. As they reached the hall's exit, she glanced back. Kael stood alone before the throne, his expression carved from stone. But his eyes, those silver burning eyes, followed her every step. And Naira held on to that gaze like a lifeline as the guards pulled her into the dark. The descent into the sacred chamber felt like being swallowed alive. The stairs spiraled down, 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 far beneath the citadel's foundation, into the mountain's frozen heart. Torches lined the walls, but their light barely pushed back the shadows. The air grew colder with each step, thick with the smell of old stone and ancient magic. Naira's breath misted in front of her face. Her thin slippers, ceremonial, beautiful, utterly useless, did nothing to protect her feet from the ice-slicked steps. "Careful," one of the guards muttered as she stumbled. "Break your neck before the trial starts, and the king really will burn us all." It wasn't kindness, just self-preservation. But Nira appreciated the warning anyway. Finally, they reached the bottom. A massive chamber stretched before them, carved directly from the mountain rock. Strange symbols covered the walls, old pack markings, older than language, glowing faintly with their own light. In the center stood 3 stone pedestals, each holding an object covered in dark cloth. Elder Morna waited beside them, her white robes ghostly in the dim light. "Leave us," she commanded the guards. They obeyed without question, their footsteps echoing as they climbed back up. The sound faded, leaving Naira alone with the elder in the oppressive silence. "Do you know what this chamber is?" Morna asked. Naira shook her head. "It's where the first wolves made their pacts, where bonds were forged and tested before civilization made us soft." Morna moved to the first pedestal. These trials were designed to break false mates, to ensure only the strongest, truest bonds survived. She pulled back the cloth. Beneath it sat a simple silver chalice. "The first test," Morna said, "is loyalty. Drink from this cup and your deepest truth will be revealed. If you carry betrayal in your heart, if you seek to harm the king or the pack, the poison will know, and you will die screaming." Nira's mouth went dry. "And if I'm loyal? Then you'll live, but the poison burns regardless. It separates the committed from the cowardly." Morna's gaze was sharp. "Still willing to proceed?" Every instinct screamed at Nira to run, but she thought of Kael's eyes, his promise to protect her, the bond humming beneath her skin. "Yes," she whispered. Morna lifted the chalice. The liquid inside was black as ink, viscous and wrong. Steam rose from its surface despite the chamber's cold. "Drink all of it," Morna instructed, "and do not scream. If you scream, you fail." Naira took the chalice with trembling hands. The metal was ice cold, burning her palms. She lifted it to her lips. The liquid tasted like ash and copper, like drinking liquid darkness. She forced herself to swallow. The effect was immediate. Fire exploded through her veins. Not metaphorical heat, actual burning, searing agony that felt like her blood was being boiled inside her body. Nira's vision blurred, her knees buckled. The chalice clattered to the stone floor. "Don't scream!" Morna's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Fight through it!" Naira bit down hard on her tongue, tasting blood. The pain was unreal. Impossible. Every nerve ending in her body was on fire, screaming for release. But she didn't scream. She thought of Kael, of his hand in hers, of the way he'd knelt before her, of his promise to protect her. She thought of her wolf, hidden, quiet, but still there. And slowly, agonizingly, the fire began to fade. When Naira could see again, she was on her hands and knees, gasping. Sweat soaked through her gown. Her entire body shook. But she was alive. "Impressive," Morna said quietly. "Most don't last 30 seconds. You endured for nearly 2 minutes." Naira wanted to ask how anyone survived this barbaric ritual, but her throat was too raw to speak. Morna moved to the second pedestal and pulled back its cloth. A small glass vial sat there, filled with shimmering blue liquid. "The second test is truth. Drink this, and you will relive your most painful memory, every detail, every emotion, and you must speak it aloud, honestly, completely. If you lie, if you hide anything, the magic will know, and you will be trapped in that moment forever." Naira's heart sank, her most painful memory. She knew exactly which one it would be, the night her pack cast her out. "I can't," she whispered. "Please, anything but that." "Then you fail." Morna's voice was implacable, and the bond will be declared false. Tears burned Naira's eyes. She'd spent 6 years burying that night, forgetting the cold, the fear, the absolute certainty that she was worthless, broken, nothing. But if she didn't face it now, Kael would die. Nira forced herself to her feet. Her legs barely held her. She reached for the vial with shaking hands. "Wait," Morna said suddenly. Nira froze. The elder studied her with those ancient, knowing eyes. "Why are you doing this, child? Truly, is it because you love the king, or because you fear what will happen if you don't?" The question hit Naira like a physical blow. She thought about it, really thought. Did she love Kael? She barely knew him. One night, one touch, one impossible bond. But when she thought about him dying, about the curse tearing him apart, about never seeing those silver eyes again. "I don't know if it's love," Naira said softly, "but it's something. Something that makes me want to be brave even when I'm terrified. Something that makes me think maybe, just maybe, I'm worth saving too." Morna's expression flickered. "That's the truest answer I've heard in 50 years. Then she nodded. "Drink." Naira uncorked the vial and swallowed the blue liquid in one gulp. The world dissolved. Suddenly she was 17 again, standing in the center of her birth pack's gathering circle. Snow fell softly around her. Every member of the pack watched, some with pity, most with disgust. Her father wouldn't meet her eyes. "Naira Vale," the pack alpha intoned. "You have failed to present your wolf. By our laws, you are declared broken. Omega without essence. You are hereby cast from this pack. You will take nothing. You will speak to no one, and you will never return." "Please," 17-year-old Nira begged. "Please, just give me more time. My wolf is coming. I know it. I can feel—" "Liar." Her own mother's voice. Cold, ashamed. "We've given you 3 years. There is no wolf. There never was. You're just empty." The word shattered something inside her. Empty. "Strip her," the alpha ordered. Hands grabbed her, tore away her clothes, left her naked in the snow while the pack watched. Some laughed, some turned away. None helped. "Now run," the alpha said, "before we decide you're not worth even this mercy." Nira ran, barefoot through the snow, bleeding from where branches tore her skin, crying so hard she couldn't breathe. She ran until she collapsed, until the cold crept into her bones and she was certain she would die there, alone and forgotten. That's when her wolf had finally stirred, not to shift, but to whisper one word. Survive. In the sacred chamber, Naira spoke every detail, every wound, every word that had cut deeper than any blade. She spoke until her voice broke, until tears streamed down her face, until she had nothing left to hide. And when the memory finally released her, she collapsed again, but this time Elder Morna caught her. "You passed," the old woman whispered. "Twice now. One more." Naira could barely lift her head. I can't do another." "You must." Morna helped her stand. "The final test, the hardest." She pulled back the last cloth. On the pedestal sat a wicked-looking dagger. Its blade was black stone, etched with runes. A wolf's fang served as the hilt. "The test of sacrifice," Morna said quietly. "To prove your bond is true, you must offer something precious, something that costs you dearly, and you must do it willingly." Nira stared at the blade. "What do I have to sacrifice?" Morna's expression was sad. "That's not for me to say. The blade will know. When you pick it up, it will show you what must be given." With the last of her strength, Naira reached for the dagger. The moment her fingers closed around the hilt, the world exploded into vision. She saw Kael, but not as he was now. She saw him healthy, strong, free of the curse, and she saw herself, standing beside him, Queen, Luna, whole, but between them stood a shadow. The curse, massive, hungry, waiting. The vision spoke directly into her mind. To save him completely, you must give what he gave you. Hope, connection, the promise of belonging. You must sever the bond and walk away. Only then will the curse have no hold. Nira's heart stopped. Sever the bond, give up her mate, return to being nothing, lose everything she'd just found. "No," she whispered. "Then he dies." slowly, painfully, and you watch. There has to be another way. This is the sacrifice. This is the cost. Choose. Tears poured down Naira's face. This was impossible, cruel. She'd just begun to believe she could have something good, something real, and now... But then she remembered Kael's words. You're saving my life. If severing the bond truly would break the curse, would give him his life back, how could she refuse, even if it destroyed her? Naira raised the dagger. Her hand shook so badly she could barely hold it. I choose him, she whispered. I choose his life over mine. If severing the bond will save him, then... Light exploded from the blade. The force threw Naira backward. She hit the stone floor hard, the dagger clattering from her grip. When she could see again, Elder Morna was staring at her with something like awe. What just happened? Naira gasped. The blade accepted your choice, Morna breathed. But it didn't require you to follow through. What? The test of sacrifice isn't about what you give up. It's about what you're willing to give up. Morna knelt beside her. You chose his life over your happiness, over your bond, over everything. That's a sacrifice born of true love, child. The blade recognized it. Naira couldn't process the words. Her mind was still reeling from the vision, from the choice she'd almost made. Did I pass? She whispered. Morna smiled, truly smiled, for the first time. You passed all three. You are the king's true mate, Naira Vale. No one can question that now. Relief flooded through Naira so powerfully she started sobbing. Great, racking sobs that shook her entire body. She'd done it, survived, proved herself. Elder Morna helped her to her feet. Come, the pack is waiting, and the king is probably tearing the citadel apart, wondering if you're still alive. They climbed the stairs together, Morna supporting Naira's weight when her legs threatened to give out. When they finally emerged into the grand hall, the entire pack was still gathered, silent, waiting. Kyle stood at the center, his face carved from stone. But when he saw Naira, battered, tear-stained, but alive, something in his expression cracked. He crossed the distance in 3 strides and caught her as her legs finally gave out. I've got you, he murmured into her hair. I've got you. Naira clung to him, shaking. I passed. All 3. I know. I never doubted. His arms tightened. I'm so sorry. I should never have let them. She passed, Elder Morna's voice rang out. The trials have confirmed it. Naira Vale is the king's true mate. Let no one question it again. The hall erupted, but this time with cheers. Not everyone, of course. Naira could still see hostile faces in the crowd, still feel the doubt. But enough wolves were celebrating that it felt like victory. Kael lifted Naira into his arms as if she weighed nothing. We're finishing this, he said firmly. Now, before anyone else tries to interfere. He carried her to the center of the hall, set her gently on her feet, and turned to face the pack. I claim this woman as my mate, he announced. His voice was steel. Command. Does anyone challenge? Silence. Kael's eyes swept the room, daring anyone to speak. No one did. Even Varric remained silent, though his expression was murderous. Then witness, Kael said. He pulled Naira close and tilted her head to the side, exposing the curve of her neck. His eyes met hers, silently asking permission one last time. Naira nodded. Kael's eyes flashed amber, his wolf rising, and then he bit down. The pain was sharp, bright, immediate, but it lasted only a second before pleasure flooded in. The bond snapped fully into place with a force that made Naira gasp. She felt Kael's wolf merge with something inside her, felt her own dormant beast stir and reach back, felt the connection lock like pieces of a puzzle finally fitting together. When Kael pulled back, his mark gleamed on her neck, a silver wolf encircled by flames. Mine, he growled, and deep inside, Naira's wolf finally answered. Ours. The word echoed through Naira's entire being like a bell that had been silent for years, finally ringing. Her wolf's voice, her own voice, clear and unmistakable after so long in the dark. Ours. Kael's arms tightened around her as the mark on her neck pulsed with heat. The bond flooded through her in waves, his strength, his fierce protectiveness, his absolute certainty, but also his pain. The curse still lurked beneath the surface, held at bay by her presence, but not gone. Not defeated, just waiting. "You're trembling," Kael murmured against her hair. "My wolf," Nira whispered. She spoke. Kael pulled back enough to see her face, his silver eyes searching hers. "What did she say?" "That you're ours." A weak laugh escaped her. "I haven't heard her voice in 6 years, and that's the first thing she says." Something fierce and tender crossed Kael's expression. "Smart wolf." He pressed his forehead to hers. "Can you stand? We need to finish the ceremony." Nira nodded, though her legs felt like water. Kael kept one arm around her waist as he turned to face the assembled pack. "The bond is sealed," he announced. "Nira Vale is now Luna Queen of the Stone Citadel. You will honor her as you honor me." The pack knelt as one, hundreds of wolves bowing before their new queen. The sight stole Nira's breath. Yesterday she'd been invisible. Today she stood beside the most powerful alpha in the north, while an entire kingdom knelt at her feet. It felt like a dream, or a trap. Most of the faces showed respect, some showed curiosity, but too many showed resentment, fear, barely concealed hatred. And in the back of the hall, Varric stood alone, the only wolf who hadn't knelt. His amber eyes locked on Nira with such venom that her wolf growled low in her chest. "Brother." Kael's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "You seem to have forgotten your place." Varric's smile was cold. "Forgive me. I was simply overwhelmed by the moment." He dropped to one knee with exaggerated slowness. "My queen." The mockery in his tone was unmistakable. Kael's hand tightened on Nira's waist. She could feel his wolf rising, could sense how badly he wanted to cross that hall and tear his brother apart. "Don't," she whispered. "Not here. Not now." Kael's jaw clenched, but he nodded. When he spoke again, his voice was measured. "The ceremony is complete. You're dismissed." The pack rose and began to disperse, their voices rising in excited chatter. But Nira noticed how many of them shot nervous glances at the windows, at the darkening sky beyond. "What is it?" she asked Kael. "What are they afraid of?" His expression darkened. "War. The curse weakened me for 3 months," word spread. "Now every rival pack within 500 miles thinks this is their chance to take the throne. How long do we have?" "Days. Maybe less." Kael guided her toward the exit, guards falling into formation around them. "Which is why I need you alive and safe. The bond is the only thing keeping the curse at bay. If something happens to you..." "I know." Nira's hand found his. "We protect each other." They were halfway across the hall when the doors exploded inward. A wolf stumbled through, bloodied, gasping, barely able to stand. His armor was torn, his face gray with pain. "My king," he rasped. "The northern border. Attacked." Kael was across the hall in an instant, catching the wolf before he collapsed. "Who? How many?" "The Fenris pack," the scout wheezed. 200 warriors, maybe more. They've taken the outer villages, slaughtered everyone. They're coming here, tonight." The hall erupted into chaos. Kael's roar silenced them. "Warriors to the armory. Elders, evacuate the civilians to the lower levels. Move!" Wolves scattered in every direction. Within seconds, the celebration had transformed into a war mobilization. Nira stood frozen, her mind reeling. War. Tonight. She'd been queen for less than an hour and already the kingdom was burning. Kyle turned to her, his face grim. "Mira will take you to the royal chambers. There's a safe room, reinforced steel, supplied for a siege. You'll wait there until—" "No." The word came out stronger than Nira expected. Kael blinked. "No? I'm not hiding while you fight." Nira lifted her chin. "You said it yourself. The bond keeps the curse at bay. If you go into battle without me, what happens when the curse takes hold mid-fight?" "I'll manage." "You'll die." Nira's voice hardened. "And then the kingdom falls anyway. So, no, I'm staying with you." "You can't fight," Kael said desperately. "You've never even shifted. Then I'll learn. Right now." Nira's wolf surged inside her, stronger than before. fed by the bond and the fear and the absolute refusal to lose what she'd just found. My wolf is awake. She wants to protect you as badly as I do, so teach me. We don't have time for anything else. Kael stared at her like she'd grown a second head. Then a wild, desperate laugh escaped him. You're insane. I passed the trial of truth. I think we established I'm at least a little insane. For a heartbeat, Kael just looked at her. Then he grabbed her face in both hands and kissed her, hard, brief, tasting of desperation and pride. You're going to get us both killed, he muttered against her lips. Or save us both. Nira pulled back. But we're wasting time. Kael's jaw set. Fine. But you stay close to me. Always. Understand? Understood. He grabbed her hand and they ran. The training courtyard was already packed with warriors arming themselves, strapping on leather and steel, sharpening blades, their faces set with grim determination. They parted as Kael strode through, dragging Nira with him. Clear the south end, Kael barked. The queen needs space. Shocked faces turned toward them. A few wolves looked ready to protest, but one glare from their alpha silenced any objections. Within minutes, half the courtyard was empty. Kael turned to Nira, his expression deadly serious. Shifting his instinct, your wolf knows how, you just have to let her. I've been trying to let her for 6 years, Nira said, frustration bleeding through. What if I can't? You can. Kael's hands framed her face. You were suppressed, traumatized. Your wolf hid to protect you, but she's not hiding anymore. I can feel her right beneath your skin, Nira. She's right there. You just have to trust her. Nira closed her eyes, reached for that presence inside her chest, the warmth, the growl, the fierce certainty that had whispered hours. I'm scared, she admitted. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Kael's thumb brushed her cheek. But don't let it control you. Your wolf is stronger than your fear. Prove it. Nira took a shaking breath, then another. She focused inward, past the fear, past the doubt, searching for her wolf, and found her waiting. Not small, not weak, but coiled like a spring, ready to explode. Let me out, her wolf demanded. Let me protect what's ours. Nira's eyes snapped open. She's ready. Then shift. Nira didn't know how, didn't know the mechanics, the process, Her wolf didn't care. Pain ripped through Nira's body as bones began to crack and reshape. She screamed, couldn't help it. As her spine elongated, her jaw extended, her hands became paws. Fur erupted across her skin in silver waves. The world tilted as she dropped to all fours. And then, silence. The pain vanished. Nira blinked, and the world looked different, sharper. Colors muted, but movement crystal clear. Scents exploded around her. Steel and sweat and fear and Kael, his scent wrapping around her like a physical thing. She looked down at her paws. Silver fur, black claws, larger than she'd expected. She'd done it. She'd shifted. A wolf's howl split the air, triumphant, joyous. It took Nira a moment to realize it was coming from her own throat. Kael shifted in response, his massive black wolf twice her size, his eyes blazing amber. He circled her once, inspecting, then pressed his head against hers. Beautiful, his voice rumbled through the bond. Not words, exactly, but intent, meaning. Ours, Nira's wolf responded. Kael's wolf huffed, amusement mixed with exasperation. Then he shifted back to human form, standing naked and unbothered in the middle of the courtyard, while Nira's wolf stared up at him. You need to shift back, Kael said. We don't have time for a full training session, but you need to be able to control the change. Nira focused on her human form. The shift back was easier, smoother. Within seconds, she stood on 2 legs again, gasping, her ceremonial gown hanging in tatters from the transformation. A warrior tossed Kael a cloak. He wrapped it around Nira's shoulders before pulling on his own clothes. You're a natural, he said quietly. Most wolves take weeks to achieve a clean first shift. You did it in minutes. My wolf was motivated, Nira managed. So am I. Kael's expression hardened. But shifting isn't enough. You need to know how to fight. In an hour? In however long we have before Fenris reaches our gates. He gestured to a weapons rack. Pick something. Anything you can actually lift. Nira approached the rack with shaking hands, swords, axes, spears, all too heavy, too unwieldy. Her fingers closed around a pair of long daggers, their blades silver and wickedly sharp. Kale nodded approval. Good choice. Fast, lethal up close. I can work with that. He spent the next 30 minutes drilling her relentlessly. How to hold the blades, where to strike, how to move. It was brutal, exhausting, and nowhere near enough training for actual combat. But it was something. They were interrupted by a runner. My king, scouts report Fenris Pack has breached the outer wall. They'll be here within the hour, Kael swore. Sound the alarm, all warriors to defensive positions, civilians to the lower levels. Go! The runner fled. Kael turned to Naira, his face grave. This is your last chance to hide. Please, let me fight this battle knowing you're safe. Nira shook her head. We're stronger together. You know it. I know it. She gripped her daggers. Besides, I'm faster with these than you think. You've had 30 minutes of training and 6 years of surviving. That counts for something. Nira met his eyes. I'm not running, Kael. Not from this. Not from you. So either we fight together or you waste time arguing while your enemies get closer. Kael's expression cycled through frustration, fear, and finally resignation. You're going to drive me insane. Probably. Nira managed a weak smile. But you're stuck with me now. Don't remind me. But his hand found hers, squeezing once. Stay behind me. Follow my lead. And if I tell you to run, you run. Understood? Understood. It was another lie. They both knew it, but there was no more time for truth. The alarm bells began to ring. The battle came with the darkness. Naira stood on the citadel's wall, Kael at her side, watching torches approach through the snow. Hundreds of them. An army of wolves, their howls echoing across the frozen valley. Fenris Pack, Kael said grimly, led by Alpha Thorin. Brutal. Ambitious. He's wanted my throne for years. Why now? Naira asked. Because I was dying. Because the curse made me weak. Kael's hand tightened on the hilt of his sword. He thinks tonight he'll finish what the curse started. He's wrong, Nira said with more confidence than she felt. Kael glanced at her, something softening in his expression. I hope you're right. The army reached the main gate. A single wolf stepped forward, massive, scarred, his fur dark as old blood. Even from a distance, Naira could feel the wrongness radiating from him. Kael Draven, the wolf's voice boomed across the courtyard. I am Thorin of the Fenris Pack. By ancient law, I challenge you for the throne. Face me in single combat or watch your kingdom burn. Don't, Naira whispered. It's a trap. He has 200 warriors. And if I refuse, he'll siege us until we starve. Kael's jaw set. Single combat is our only chance. You're still weak from the curse. I'm stronger with you. Kael turned to face her fully, his hands gripping her shoulders. The bond is keeping the curse at bay. As long as you're near me, I can fight. But I need you to trust me. Naira's throat tightened. I do, but I don't trust him. Neither do I. Kael's smile was sharp, which is why you're going to watch my back. Before Naira could respond, Kael vaulted over the wall and landed in the courtyard below, his wolf form massive and dark, his eyes burning amber. Thorin laughed, a sound like grinding stone. The dying king accepts. Witness this, wolves of the north. Tonight, a new alpha rises. The Fenris Pack howled their approval. Kael's warriors lined the walls, tense and ready. Nira gripped her daggers, her heart hammering. The two alphas circled each other, looking for openings. Then Thorin struck. The attack was lightning fast, claws and teeth and brutal strength. Kael met him blow for blow, their wolves colliding with bone-shaking force. Blood sprayed across the snow. Nira watched, helpless, as her mate fought for his life, for their lives. The battle raged for minutes that felt like hours. Kael was skilled, powerful, but Thorin was fresh, rested, and fighting with the confidence of someone who thought victory was guaranteed. Then Naira saw it. Movement at the edge of the courtyard. 3 Fenris wolves breaking from the formation, circling toward Kael's blind side while he was locked in combat. Ambush. Kael! Nira screamed. Behind you! But her voice was lost in the chaos of howls and combat. The three wolves lunged. Nira didn't think, didn't plan. She just shifted and leaped. She hit the wall running, her claws finding purchase on stone. She launched herself off the rampart, twisting in midair, her wolf form smaller but faster than the warriors below. She crashed into the first ambusher, her daggers, still gripped somehow in her jaws, finding throat and belly. Hot blood sprayed. The wolf went down. The other two turned on her. Nira's training was minimal, her experience non-existent, but her wolf was feral with protective fury. She dodged the first strike, rolled under the second, came up slashing. One dagger found an eye, the other opened a rib cage. The wolves screamed. Nira pressed her advantage, instinct guiding her movements. She was smaller, weaker, but she was faster. And she wasn't fighting to win. She was fighting to survive. The third wolf caught her shoulder, teeth sinking deep. Nira howled in pain but twisted, driving her blade up through the soft tissue under his jaw. The wolf released her and staggered back, choking on his own blood. Nira spun and found herself face to face with Thorin. Kael was down, bleeding from a dozen wounds. Thorin stood over him, victorious, his jaws open for the killing blow. No! Nira's scream was barely human. Thorin's head whipped toward her, his eyes widened, shock, then fury. The little Omega has teeth, he snarled. No matter, I'll kill you both. He lunged. Nira knew she couldn't win. Thorin was twice her size, 3 times her strength. She had seconds before he tore her apart, but seconds was all she needed. She dropped the daggers and threw herself at Kael instead. Her hands, human again, shifted in desperation, pressed against his chest. The bond flared, channeling her wolf's energy directly into him. Get up! She screamed through the connection. Get up! Kael's eyes snapped open, blazing silver, no longer weakened, no longer held back. The curse tried to rise, tried to drag him down, but Nira was burning with the bond's power, feeding him strength, holding the curse at bay through sheer force of will. Kael surged to his feet with a roar that shook the citadel walls. Thorin's attack met empty air. Then Kael's jaws closed around Thorin's throat. The crunch of breaking bone echoed across the courtyard. Thorin's body hit the snow and didn't move. The Fenris pack froze. Kael shifted back to human form, bloodied but standing, one hand keeping Nira behind him. Your alpha is dead, he roared. Yield or join him. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the Fenris wolves dropped to their bellies in submission. Victory. Nira's legs gave out. Kael caught her, pulling her close, both of them shaking with exhaustion and adrenaline. That was the stupidest, bravest thing I've ever seen, Kael gasped. You're welcome, Nira managed. Then the world tilted. Pain exploded through Nira's chest, not from her wounds, but from inside. The curse. She could feel it writhing, awakened by the violence, trying to break through the bond's protection. But something else was happening too. Her wolf was fighting back, not against the curse directly, but against whatever was controlling it. Because curses didn't just appear, someone had to cast them. And that someone was standing in the citadel right now. Nira's vision blurred. Images flashed through her mind, not memories, but visions. A ritual, blood and bone. A figure in the shadows, chanting words in the old tongue. A figure with amber eyes. Varric. It's him, Nira gasped. Kael, it's your brother. He's the one who cursed you. Kael went rigid. What? The curse, it's not natural. It was cast. And I can see... She choked as another wave of pain hit. I can see who did it. Varric. He wanted you weak so he could take the throne. Kael's expression transformed into something terrible. Where is he? The East Tower, Nira whispered. The vision was so clear now, like her wolf was showing her through the bond. He's there right now, trying to strengthen the curse while you're weakened from battle. Kael's roar shook the courtyard. Guards! Arrest Lord Varric! East Tower! Now! Warriors scattered, but Varric was already running. Nira saw him through the bond, felt his panic as he realized his treachery had been discovered. He fled through the citadel's hidden passages, heading for the stables. He's escaping, Nira said. The north exit. Kael was already moving. He shifted mid-run, his wolf form massive and vengeful. Nera followed, her own shift coming easier now, her silver wolf racing alongside his black one. They caught Varric at the gates. He shifted to face them, his eyes wild. "Brother, please, I can explain. You cursed me." Kyle's voice was death itself. "You tried to kill me, to steal my throne." "I was trying to make us stronger," Varric snarled. "You're too soft, too weak. You were going to destroy everything Father built. So you decided to destroy me instead?" "I decided to save the kingdom from your weakness." Varric's eyes blazed. "And I would have succeeded if this whore hadn't interfered," Kael lunged. But Naira was faster. She hit Varric full force, her wolf's fury channeling years of being called worthless, broken, nothing. Her claws found flesh, her teeth found throat. Varric screamed. "She's not the whore," Nira's wolf snarled through the bond. "She's the queen." She could have killed him. Should have, maybe. But Kael's hand on her shoulder stopped her. "No," he said quietly. "He doesn't deserve a warrior's death." Nira pulled back, leaving Varric bleeding in the snow. Guards surrounded them. Kael shifted back to human form, his face cold as the winter night. "Varric Draven, you are charged with treason, attempted regicide, and use of forbidden magic. You will be tried before the council. If found guilty, you will be stripped of your name and exiled to the wastelands. You will die alone, forgotten, as you deserve." Varric's face twisted with hatred. "You'll regret this, brother. The curse isn't broken, just held back. And when your little mate finally fails, when you're dying and desperate, you'll wish you'd let me finish what I started." "Take him away," Kael ordered. The guards dragged Varric into the darkness. Nira shifted back, her body shaking with exhaustion. Kael caught her before she fell. "It's done," he murmured. "It's over." But even as he said it, Naira felt the curse pulse. Varric was right. It wasn't broken. The bond was holding it at bay, but the curse was still there, still waiting, still hungry. And somewhere in the depths of her newfound connection to Kael, Nira sensed something terrifying. The curse wasn't just trying to kill him. It was trying to consume her too, to turn their bond from salvation into a trap that would destroy them both. "Kael," she whispered, "we have a problem." His arms tightened around her. "What is it?" Before Nira could answer, her vision exploded white. Pain like she'd never known ripped through her chest. The curse had found a crack in their bond. Just a hairline fracture, but enough. It poured through like poison. Nira screamed, and for the first time since they'd bonded, she felt Kael scream with her. The curse was evolving, learning, and it had just discovered something neither of them had realized. If it couldn't kill them separately, it would kill them together. Nira collapsed in Kael's arms, her wolf howling in agony, as the curse wrapped around both their hearts like a fist slowly crushing the life from them. In the distance, Varric's laughter echoed through the night. Varric's laughter died in the darkness as Nira's screams split the night. Kael collapsed with her, both of them writhing in the snow as the curse tightened its grip. Not just on him anymore, on both of them. The bond that was supposed to save them had become a noose, strangling them together. "No," Kael gasped through gritted teeth. "Naira, break the bond. You have to—" "I won't!" She could barely form words through the agony. Her wolf was thrashing inside her chest, clawing at the curse, but it was like fighting smoke. The more they struggled, the tighter it squeezed. Guards rushed toward them but stopped short, unsure how to help. The curse manifested as black veins spreading across both their bodies, pulsing with sickly light. Where it touched, skin turned gray and cold. "Get the healers!" someone shouted. "Healers can't touch this!" Elder Morna's voice cut through the chaos. She appeared through the crowd, moving faster than a woman her age should be able. "This is blood magic, old magic, the kind that feeds on connection." "Then what do we do?" Kael's voice was raw. "How do we stop it?" Morna knelt beside them, her ancient eyes sharp. "You don't stop it. You can't. Varric designed it specifically to target the mate bond. The stronger your connection, the stronger the curse becomes. It's genius, really. Cruel, but genius." "Not helping," Nira managed to gasp. "But there might be another way." Morna's gaze fixed on Nira. "The curse is feeding on your bond. But what if instead of fighting it, you fed it something else?" "What?" Kael demanded. The curse wants power, connection. It's starving for it. That's why it latched onto the mate bond in the first place. Morna's voice dropped. But there's another source of power in this citadel, stronger than any bond, older than any curse. Nira's vision was blurring, but understanding flickered through the pain. The sacred chamber. Morna nodded. Where you took the trials. That place was built on ancient wolf magic, the kind that predates language, predates civilization. Raw, primal. If you can reach it, if you can tap into that power and redirect the curse toward it instead of each other, it might work, Kael finished. Or it might kill us faster. It's the only chance you have. Morna stood. I'll prepare the chamber. You have maybe an hour before the curse consumes you both completely. Use it wisely. She disappeared into the citadel. Kael forced himself to his feet, pulling Nira up with him. They leaned on each other, both trembling from pain and exhaustion. Can you walk? He asked. Can you? Nira countered. His laugh was bitter. Barely. They staggered through the citadel, guards clearing a path. Every step was agony. The curse was tightening with each passing second, crushing their hearts, making it harder to breathe. But they made it to the stairs. The descent into the sacred chamber was worse than before. Nira's legs gave out twice. Kael's strength was failing fast, the curse attacking him from two directions now, inside and through the bond. I'm sorry, Nira whispered as they stumbled down another step. This is my fault. If I hadn't bonded with you, then I'd already be dead. Kael's arm tightened around her waist. And I'd rather die with you than live without you. Understand? Tears burned Nira's eyes. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You jumped off a wall to save me from an ambush. You don't get to call me stupid. Despite everything, Nira almost smiled. Fair point. They reached the bottom. The sacred chamber looked different. Elder Morna had lit hundreds of candles, their flames casting dancing shadows on the ancient walls. The three pedestals from Nira's trial were gone, replaced by a single circle carved into the stone floor. Symbols covered every inch of the circle, wolf runes older than memory, glowing with faint silver light. Get in, Morna commanded. She stood at the edge of the circle, her hands already weaving patterns in the air, calling on magic Nira could feel but not understand. Both of you. Center. Kael and Nira stumbled into the circle. The moment they crossed the boundary, the curse screamed. The black veins across their bodies blazed brighter, spreading faster. Nira could feel the curse fighting, sensing the trap, trying to pull them back out. Don't leave the circle, Morna's voice was steel. No matter what happens, stay inside. What happens now? Kael ground out. Now you fight. Morna's eyes blazed. The chamber will amplify the ancient magic buried in this mountain. It will try to pull the curse out of you and into the earth. But the curse won't go willingly. You have to make it. You have to be stronger than it is. How? Nira gasped. Morna's expression softened. By accepting what you are, both of you. The curse feeds on denial, on fear, on the parts of yourselves you try to hide. But if you face those parts, if you embrace them completely, the curse will have nothing left to feed on. The old woman began to chant. The words were in the old tongue, harsh and guttural, but they resonated through Nira's bones. The circle's symbols flared brighter, power filled the chamber like rising water, and the curse fought back. Images exploded through Nira's mind, her worst memories, her deepest fears. The night her pack cast her out. The years of loneliness, the certainty that she was broken, worthless, nothing. No, she whispered, I'm not that girl anymore. But you are, the curse hissed. You'll always be broken, wolfless, worthless. And now you've infected the king with your weakness. He'll die because of you. Everyone will die because of you. That's not true, isn't it? Look at him. Nira's eyes snapped to Kael. He was on his knees, black veins covering half his face, his silver eyes fading to dull gray. Dying because she'd bonded with him, because she'd been selfish enough to think she deserved a mate. Nira. Kael's voice was barely a whisper. Don't listen to it. It's lying. But what if it's not? Tears poured down her face. What if I am the reason you're dying? What if breaking the bond is the only way to save you? Then I'd rather die. Kael reached for her hand. His touch was cold, his strength fading. Because a life without you isn't worth living. You barely know me. I know enough, his fingers laced with hers. I know you risked everything to save a stranger. I know you faced 3 impossible trials without breaking. I know you fought beside me tonight even though you'd never held a weapon before. And I know, his voice cracked, I know that you're the strongest person I've ever met. So stop listening to that curse and start listening to me. The words hit Naira like a physical blow. She'd spent 6 years believing she was weak, broken, less than everyone else. But she wasn't, was she? She'd survived being cast out, survived alone in the wilderness, survived 6 years of mockery and abuse and crushing loneliness. And she'd done it without a pack, without a wolf, without anything but her own stubborn refusal to quit. That wasn't weakness. That was strength. You're right, Naira breathed. I'm not broken. I never was. Her wolf surged in agreement. Never broken. Just hidden. Waiting. And I'm not dying today. Naira's grip on Kale's hand tightened. Neither are you. The curse shrieked in fury, but Naira was done being afraid. She reached deep inside herself, past the pain, past the fear, straight to the core of who she was, and she pulled. Her wolf erupted. Not in a shift. In pure, raw power. Silver light exploded from Naira's chest, flooding the circle, pushing back the curse's darkness. She felt her wolf fully awaken for the first time, not scared, not hiding, but furious at being suppressed for so long. You hurt our mate, the wolf snarled at the curse. You hurt us, and now you pay. Naira channeled that fury, let it burn through her veins, let it scour away every last trace of doubt and self-hatred and shame. The curse tried to hold on, tried to feed on her fear. But there was no fear left, only blazing absolute certainty. She was Naira Vale, Luna Queen, survivor, and she was done being a victim. The curse began to crack. Beside her, Kale gasped. The black veins on his skin started to recede as Naira's power pushed the curse back, forced it to release its grip. That's it, Elder Morna's voice rang out. Keep going, drive it into the earth. Naira gritted her teeth and pushed harder. The curse was ancient, powerful, designed by Varek to be unbreakable. But Varek had made one critical mistake. He'd assumed Naira was weak. He'd assumed the mate bond would make them vulnerable. He'd assumed wrong, because the bond wasn't just feeding the curse. It was feeding them. Kael's strength poured into Naira through the connection. Her determination poured back into him. They weren't 2 separate wolves anymore. They were one unified force, and together they were stronger than any curse could ever be. The curse screamed and broke. The black veins shattered like glass, dissolving into smoke that was sucked down into the circle's symbols. The ancient magic of the chamber caught it, trapped it, dragged it deep into the mountain's heart where it would be buried forever. Silence fell. Naira and Kael collapsed against each other, gasping, their bodies trembling but whole. The pain was gone. The crushing weight had lifted. The curse was destroyed. You did it, Morna breathed. Wonder filled her ancient eyes. You actually did it. Naira couldn't speak, could barely move. But she was alive. They were both alive. And the curse was gone. Kael's hand found her face, tilting her chin up so their eyes met. You saved us. Again. We saved each other, Naira corrected softly. His smile was weak but genuine. Always. They helped each other stand. Naira's legs felt like water, but she forced herself upright. They'd won. They'd beaten Varek's curse. They'd survived. But when they emerged from the sacred chamber, climbing those endless stairs back to the citadel proper, Naira knew the real battle was just beginning, because destroying the curse didn't change the fact that she was still an Omega with no pack lineage, still a nobody who'd claimed a throne she hadn't earned in the eyes of most wolves, still the girl everyone would doubt. The Grand Hall was packed when they entered. News of the curse being broken had spread like wildfire. Hundreds of wolves stood waiting, their faces reflecting everything from hope to suspicion to outright hostility. And at the front of the crowd, surrounded by guards, stood Varek. His face was bruised, his hands bound in silver chains, but his amber eyes still blazed with hatred. The traitor wishes to speak, Elder Morna announced, before his trial. Kael's jaw clenched. Let him speak, then we'll decide his fate. Varric was shoved forward. He stumbled but caught himself, lifting his chin with defiant pride. You think you've won, he said, his voice carrying across the hall. You think breaking my curse makes you strong, but you're still weak, brother. Weak because you let her, he spat the word at Nyra, convince you that love is strength, that compassion matters, that an Omega with no lineage could ever be queen. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some agreeing, some uncertain. You're wrong, Kael said quietly. Am I? Varric's smile was vicious. Look around you, brother. Half this pack still thinks she's a fraud. A witch who bewitched you. They'll never accept her, never follow her. And when the next war comes, when the next rival challenges you, they'll remember that your precious mate was nothing but a servant girl with delusions of grandeur. The hall erupted in angry voices. Nyra stood silent, her heart sinking. Because Varric was right about one thing, the doubt was still there. She could see it at the faces around her, feel it in the hostile stares. She'd broken the curse, fought beside Kael, passed every trial. And still, it wasn't enough. You want proof? Varric continued, sensing victory. Fine. Let her prove herself one last time. Let her face the Council of Elders in formal judgment. Let them decide if she's truly worthy to be queen. No, Kael said immediately. She's proven herself 10 times over. Then she shouldn't fear one more test. Varric's eyes glittered. Unless, of course, she knows she'll fail. The trap was obvious, cruel, but effective. Nyra felt every eye in the hall turn to her, waiting, judging. If she refused, they'd call her a coward. If she accepted and failed, they'd strip her of her crown. Either way, Varric won. Unless... Nyra stepped forward before Kael could stop her. I accept, she said clearly. Gasps echoed through the hall. Nyra, no, Kael started. I accept the council's judgment, Nyra repeated, louder this time. But I have one condition. Varric's smile faltered. You're in no position to make demands. I'm the Luna Queen. I'm in every position. Nyra lifted her chin, channeling every ounce of strength she'd found in the sacred chamber. I'll face the council, answer their questions, prove my worth, but in return, she turned to face Varric fully. You have to accept the consequences of your actions. No exile, no mercy. If I prove myself worthy, you face execution for treason. The hall went deathly silent. Varric's face paled. You can't. I can. I just did. Nyra's voice was steel. You wanted me to prove myself. Fine. But when I do, and I will, you'll pay for what you've done. Every moment of suffering you inflicted on your brother. Every innocent life lost because you weakened this kingdom with your curse. Every bit of pain and fear and death you caused. You'll answer for all of it. For the first time since this nightmare began, Varric looked genuinely afraid. Do we have a deal? Nyra asked. Silence stretched like a drawn blade. Then Elder Morna stepped forward. The council accepts these terms. Tomorrow at dawn, Nyra Vale will face judgment before the assembled elders. If she proves worthy, Varric Draven will be executed for his crimes. If she fails, the old woman's eyes were unreadable. She will step down as Luna Queen and leave the Citadel forever. No, Kael said desperately. You can't ask her to. I agree, Nyra said before he could finish. Kael's head whipped toward her. Nyra, I agree to the terms, she repeated, because I'm not afraid anymore. Of the council, of judgment, of anything. She looked around the hall, meeting as many hostile gazes as she could. I know who I am, and tomorrow you'll all know it too. The certainty in her voice left no room for doubt. Elder Morna nodded slowly. Then it's settled. Guards, take Varric to the dungeons. The rest of you, prepare for tomorrow's trial. The crowd began to disperse, voices rising in excited chatter. Nyra felt Kael's hand grip her arm, his touch desperate. That was insane, he hissed. You just bet your entire future on a trial you might not win. I'll win, Nyra said simply. How can you be so sure? She turned to face him fully, her silver eyes clear. Because I'm not fighting for a crown. I'm fighting for the right to stand beside you. And that's something worth more than any throne. Kael stared at her like she'd just spoken a foreign language. Then he pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. "If they take you from me," he whispered, "I'll burn this entire kingdom to ash." "They won't." Nira's hand found his chest, resting over his heart. "Trust me." "I do. But I don't trust them." "You don't have to." Nira pulled back enough to see his face. "You just have to believe that I'm strong enough to face whatever comes next. Can you do that?" Kyle's expression was torn between pride and terror. "Yes," he finally said, "but I don't have to like it." "Fair enough." Nira managed a small smile. "Now, help me figure out how to survive tomorrow." They spent the night preparing. Elder Morna explained the council's judgment process, a formal trial where 7 elders would question Nira about everything from her lineage to her intentions to her knowledge of pack law. One wrong answer could be enough to condemn her. "They'll try to break you," Morna warned. "They'll dig into every wound, every weakness, every moment of your past that makes you vulnerable. And they won't stop until you either prove you're unbreakable or shatter completely." "Sounds familiar," Nira said dryly. She'd already faced 3 trials designed to break her. What was one more? But as dawn approached and exhaustion pulled at her bones, doubt began to creep in. What if she wasn't strong enough? What if her past, the years of being worthless, broken, cast out, was too heavy to overcome? What if the council saw through her newfound confidence and found the scared, lonely girl underneath? "Stop," Kael said softly. They were in his chambers, their chambers now, sitting before the fire. Nira had been staring into the flames for the past hour, her mind spinning. "Stop what?" she asked. "Doubting yourself." Kael shifted closer, his warmth a comfort against the cold. "I can feel it through the bond, the fear creeping back in." Nira sighed. "I can't help it. The council will see what I see, what Morna sees, what everyone who matters sees." Kael's hand found hers. A survivor, a warrior, someone who refuses to break no matter what the world throws at her. And if they can't see that, then they're not worth convincing. "Easy for you to say. You're not the one on trial." "Aren't I?" Kael's smile was sad. "Every question they ask you is also a question about me, about my judgment in choosing you, about whether I'm fit to lead if I'd bind myself to someone unworthy. If you fail tomorrow, we both lose." Nira hadn't thought of it that way. The weight of it settled on her shoulders like a physical burden. "So no pressure," she muttered. Kael laughed, a real laugh, not bitter or forced. "We've survived worse. Together." "Together," Nira echoed. She leaned against him, letting his strength anchor her. They sat like that until the sky began to lighten, wrapped in each other and the bond that had saved them both. When the bells rang for dawn, they were ready. The grand hall had been transformed into a courtroom. 7 chairs sat on a raised platform, one for each elder. The pack filled every available space, pressed shoulder to shoulder, their anticipation palpable. Nira walked down the center aisle alone. Kael had wanted to accompany her, but the rules were clear. The accused faced judgment without assistance. She wore a simple white dress. No crown, no jewelry, no armor. Just herself. The 7 elders sat in judgment, their faces carved from stone. Elder Morna was among them, but her expression gave nothing away. "Nira Vale," the head elder intoned. His name was Fenwick, and his eyes were cold as winter. "You stand before this council to prove your worth as Luna Queen. Do you accept the terms of this trial?" "I do," Nira said clearly. "Then let us begin." Fenwick leaned forward. "First question. What is your lineage?" "I have none." Nira's voice didn't waver. "My parents were mid-ranking wolves in a small pack. No titles. No special bloodlines. Just ordinary wolves who produced an ordinary daughter. And yet you claim the right to be queen?" Another elder spoke. A woman named Iris with sharp features and sharper eyes. "With no noble blood? No ancestry to justify your position?" "I claim the right because the mate bond chose me," Nira replied. "I didn't ask for it, didn't scheme for it. The bond simply was. And I accepted it because refusing would have meant the king's death." "How convenient," Iris said coldly. "A nobody becomes a queen overnight. Some might call that opportunistic. Some might call it fate," Nira countered. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Fenwick raised a hand for silence. Second question. You were cast out by your birth pack. Why? Nira's stomach clenched, but she'd known this question would come. Because my wolf didn't emerge when it should have. They declared me broken and exiled me. And was their assessment correct? Fenwick pressed. Were you broken? I thought I was, Nira admitted. For 6 years I believed them. I thought I was worthless. Less than nothing. But I was wrong. She lifted her chin. My wolf wasn't broken. She was protecting me, waiting until I was strong enough to handle what she truly was. And what is she? Iris demanded. Nira felt her wolf stir, felt the ancient power coiled inside her chest. She could shift right now, could show them the silver wolf that had fought beside the Alpha King, but that felt like bragging, like proving her worth through power alone. So instead, Nira said quietly, She's a survivor, just like me. The third elder spoke, an old male named Torin with scars crossing his face. You claim to have broken the curse that plagued our king. How? Through the bond, Nira said, and through accepting who I am. The curse fed on denial and fear. When I stopped being afraid of my past, stopped denying my worth, it had nothing left to feed on. So it broke. Convenient, Iris repeated. True, Nira shot back. The fourth elder, a quiet woman named Sarah, leaned forward. What do you know of pack law? Not much, Nira admitted. I've only been part of this pack for 2 days. Gasps, hostile muttering. But, Nira continued, raising her voice, I know the most important law, the one that matters more than any written rule. And what is that? Sarah asked. That a pack survives through unity, through protecting the weak and honoring the strong, through standing together against threats no single wolf could face alone. Nira looked directly at Fenwick. I may not know every law in your books, but I know what it means to be pack, because I spent 6 years without one. 6 years alone, cold and forgotten, and I refuse to let anyone else suffer that way if I have the power to stop it. Silence fell over the hall. The fifth elder, a stern male named Garrett, spoke next. Why should we trust you? You appeared from nowhere, claimed our king, destroyed our way of life. I saved your king, Nira interrupted. Your way of life was killing him. Varric's curse would have destroyed this kingdom from within while you all argued about bloodlines and tradition. I didn't destroy anything. I rebuilt what was breaking. Bold words from a servant girl, Garrett sneered. I'm not a servant anymore. Nira's eyes blazed. I'm your queen, and whether you like it or not, I'm not going anywhere. The sixth elder, an ancient woman named Cora, studied Nira with eyes that had seen centuries. One final question, child. If you had to choose between the crown and the king, between power and love, which would you choose? The hall went silent. It was the same question the trial of sacrifice had asked, the same impossible choice, but Nira didn't hesitate. I'd choose him, she said softly, every time, without question, because the crown is just a symbol, but Kael, her voice caught. Kael is everything. Cora's expression softened. Even knowing it would mean giving up everything you fought for? Especially then, Nira's throat tightened with emotion. Because love isn't about what you gain. It's about what you're willing to sacrifice. And I'd sacrifice everything for him. The words hung in the air like a confession. A vow. Elder Morna stood. The council has heard enough. We will deliberate. The 7 elders huddled together, their voices low and urgent. Nira stood alone in the center of the hall, her heart pounding, while hundreds of wolves watched and waited. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the elders separated. Elder Morna stepped forward. Her face was unreadable. Nira Vale, she said formally. This council has deliberated. We have considered your words, your actions, and your worth as Luna Queen. Nira's hands clenched at her sides. And we find, Morna's lips quirked into the faintest smile, that you are exactly what this kingdom needs. The hall erupted. Cheers, applause, some protests, but they were drowned out by the overwhelming support. Nira's knees nearly buckled with relief. You have proven yourself worthy, Morna continued. Not through bloodlines or tradition, but through courage, sacrifice, and unwavering strength. You are Luna Queen by right of the mate bond, by right of trial, and by right of this council's judgment. Let no one question it again. Kyle was across the hall in seconds, pulling Naira into his arms, his relief palpable through the bond. You did it, he breathed against her hair. You actually did it. We did it, Naira corrected. Then she turned to face Varric, who stood in chains at the edge of the crowd, his face ashen. And now, she said coldly, we deal with the traitor. Varric's chains rattled as guards dragged him forward. His defiance had crumbled. The smug certainty that had carried him through years of plotting was gone, replaced by the hollow-eyed terror of a man who'd gambled everything and lost. Varric Draven, Elder Fenwick's voice rang out. You stand accused of treason, attempted regicide, and the use of forbidden blood magic. The evidence is undeniable. Your own brother bears the scars of your curse. Do you deny these charges? Varric's mouth opened, closed. No words came. Answer, Kyle commanded. His voice was ice and iron. The Alpha King, not the wounded brother. Varric's voice cracked. I did what I thought was necessary. Necessary? Kyle stepped forward, his fury barely contained. You cursed me, tried to kill me, weakened our kingdom and left us vulnerable to invasion. Innocent wolves died because of you. Children lost their parents in battles we couldn't win because I was too broken to lead. And you call that necessary? You were weak. Varric's composure shattered completely. You cared more about honor than power, more about mercy than strength. Father would have been ashamed. Father would have executed you himself. Kyle's words cut like a blade. He built this kingdom on loyalty and trust. You spat on everything he stood for. Varric flinched as if struck. The hall waited in breathless silence. This was the moment. Justice for months of suffering, retribution for treachery that had nearly destroyed them all. The sentence is clear, Elder Morna said. Death by execution, to be carried out at sunset. Murmurs of approval rippled through the crowd, but Nira felt no satisfaction, just a hollow ache as she looked at Varric, broken, terrified, stripped of everything he'd schemed to gain. He'd been wrong, cruel, dangerous. He deserved punishment. But death? Wait, Nira heard herself say. Every head turned toward her. Kale's hand found her arm. Nira, what are you doing? I don't know, she admitted quietly, then louder. But I need to speak before sentence is carried out. Elder Fenwick frowned. The judgment is final. The judgment is mine to give, Nira interrupted. She stepped forward, aware of the risk, aware of how this would look. I'm the one he tried to destroy through the curse. The bond made me a target as much as Kyle, so I have the right to speak. Silence stretched tight as a bowstring. Finally, Fenwick nodded. Speak, then. Naira approached Varric. Up close, she could see the fear trembling through him, see the desperate hope flickering in his eyes that maybe, just maybe, she'd offer him a lifeline. Why did you do it? She asked quietly. Really? Not the excuse about strength or the kingdom, the real reason. Varric's jaw worked. For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because I was tired of being second. The raw honesty in his voice surprised her. Second son, Varric continued, words spilling out now like a dam had broken. Second best, second choice. Always in Kyle's shadow. No matter what I did, how hard I tried, Father only ever saw him. The perfect heir, the golden wolf. His voice cracked. I just wanted to matter, to be seen, to prove I could be just as strong, stronger, if given the chance. Naira's chest tightened. She recognized that pain, the ache of being invisible, overlooked, dismissed as worthless. So you cursed him, she said. I was going to save him. Varric's eyes were wild now, desperate. After he was weak enough, after the pack was begging for a solution, I was going to discover the cure, be the hero, prove my worth. But then you... He looked at her with something between hatred and desperation. You ruined everything. One touch, and you became the savior I was supposed to be. That must have been hard, Nira said softly. Varric blinked, clearly expecting condemnation, not understanding. Being erased again, Nira continued, having someone else steal your moment, your chance to finally be seen. She took a breath. I know what that feels like. Being nothing, being no one, watching everyone else matter while you just disappear. You don't know anything, Varric spat, but his voice lacked conviction. I know more than you think. Nira's hand moved to the mark on her neck. Kale's claiming bite, the symbol of everything Varric had tried to destroy. I was cast out, forgotten, told I was worthless for 6 years, and I could have let that break me, could have let the bitterness and pain turn me into something cruel. But I didn't. Because being hurt doesn't give you the right to hurt others. Varric's face twisted. Easy for you to say. You won. You got everything. I got everything because I chose love over revenge. Nira's voice hardened. You had every chance to be seen, Varric, to be valued. But instead of earning respect, you tried to steal it. Instead of building something worth having, you destroyed what your brother built. And now you want sympathy? I want justice. Varric's chains rattled as he surged forward. Guards restrained him, but his voice carried. I want someone to acknowledge that I was wronged, that father's favoritism broke me just as surely as your precious bond broke Kael's curse. The hall erupted in angry shouts, but Nira raised her hand and miraculously they quieted. You were wronged, she said. Gasps, Kael's sharp intake of breath behind her. Not the way you think, Nira continued. Not by Kael, not by your father's love for his heir, but by your own choices. You had everything, a kingdom, a family, a purpose, and you threw it away because you couldn't stand being second. That's not your father's failure, it's yours. Varric's face crumpled. But, Nira said quietly, that doesn't mean you have to die. The hall exploded. What? Kael was at her side in an instant. Nira, he tried to kill us. I know. She turned to face him, her eyes steady. And he deserves punishment. But death won't bring back the wolves we lost. Won't undo the damage. It'll just create another martyr, another story of the cruel Alpha King who killed his own brother. He cursed me, Kael said, his voice rough. He deserves to live with what he's done. Nira's hand found Kael's chest, over his heart, to spend the rest of his life knowing he had everything and destroyed it himself. That's a harsher sentence than any executioner's blade. Kael stared at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. You want to show him mercy. I want to show him what real strength looks like. Nira turned back to Varric. You thought power came from domination, from being feared. But you're wrong. Real power comes from choosing compassion when revenge would be easier, from building instead of destroying, from being strong enough to forgive even when forgiveness isn't deserved. Tears ran down Varric's face now, cutting tracks through the grime and blood. I won't ask Kael to pardon you, Nira continued. You committed treason. That requires punishment. But I will ask for exile instead of execution, banishment to the wastelands where you'll have nothing but time to think about what you've lost, where every day you'll wake up and remember that you had a brother who loved you, a kingdom that needed you, and you threw it all away for pride. That's crueler than death, someone in the crowd muttered. Exactly, Nira said, but it's also a chance to become someone better, to find redemption if he's strong enough to seek it. She looked at Kael. It's your choice, your kingdom, your justice. But this is what I'm asking for. Kael's jaw worked. She could feel his struggle through the bond, the fury warring with the love he'd once had for his brother, the desire for revenge battling against the woman who just asked him to be better than his pain. Finally, he spoke. If I grant this mercy, it's not for him. It's for you. Because you asked. Understand? Nira nodded. Kael turned to the council. Varric Draven will be stripped of his name and titles. He will be exiled to the northern wastelands with nothing but the clothes on his back. No weapons, no supplies, no second chances. If he ever sets foot in this kingdom again, the sentence of death will be carried out immediately. Is this acceptable? The elders conferred briefly, then Elder Morna nodded. The sentence is just. Let it be recorded. Guards seized Varric to drag him away, but before they could, Varric looked back at Nira. His expression was shattered, confused, but something else flickered there too. Gratitude. shame, the first seeds of understanding. Why? He whispered. Because someone showed me mercy once when I didn't deserve it, Naira said quietly. And it saved my life. Maybe it'll save yours too. Varric was led away into the darkness. The hall remained silent for a long moment. Then slowly wolves began to kneel. Not in judgment this time. In respect. Even those who'd doubted her, who'd called her unworthy, who'd wanted her to fail. They knelt. Because mercy in the face of betrayal was something they understood, something they valued, something that proved, beyond any trial or test, that Naira Vale was exactly the queen they needed. But the victory felt hollow, because as Naira stood there, surrounded by kneeling wolves and acceptance she'd fought so hard to earn, she felt something shift inside her. The ancient power that had awakened during the curse breaking. The silver fire that had blazed through her veins. It was still there, burning hotter than ever, fed by the bond and the trials and everything she'd survived. And it was growing. That night, Naira dreamed. She stood in the sacred chamber again, but it looked different. The walls glowed with silver light, the ancient runes blazing like small suns. And at the center stood a figure, a massive silver wolf, larger than any Naira had ever seen, her eyes ancient and knowing. "Who are you?" Naira whispered. "I am what you were always meant to be," the wolf replied. "Luna. Not just queen, true Luna, the first in 1,000 years. I don't understand. Your bloodline was never ordinary. It was hidden, suppressed, lost to time. But the mate bond with an alpha king awakened what was sleeping. You are becoming what your ancestors were, a Luna wolf, powerful enough to match an alpha, strong enough to lead." Naira's breath caught. "The power I felt when I broke the curse is only the beginning. You will grow stronger, fast enough to outrun any warrior, strong enough to challenge any alpha. Your healing will be instantaneous, your senses sharper than any wolf alive." The ancient Luna's eyes blazed. "You will be legend-made flesh." "But at what cost?" Naira asked, fear creeping in. The Luna wolf's expression softened. "That choice is yours. You can embrace this power, become the strongest Luna in living memory, rule with strength that none can question. Or you can give it back." Naira blinked. "Give it back? How?" "The power came from the sacred chamber, from ancient magic that recognized your worth and chose you as its vessel. But magic given can be magic returned. You could channel it back into the earth, into the pack itself, strengthening every wolf in the kingdom instead of yourself alone." "I'd lose everything," Naira whispered. "The strength, the speed, the power." "Not everything. Your wolf would remain, your bond with Kael would remain. But the supernatural gifts, the Luna power that makes you more than ordinary, that would be distributed among your people. You would become human again, or as close to it as a bonded mate can be." "Why would I do that?" "Because true leadership isn't about being the strongest. It's about making everyone else strong." The Luna wolf stepped closer. "Your mate needs a powerful Luna by his side. Your kingdom needs a legendary queen. But your people, your pack, they need hope. They need to know that strength doesn't come from one person but from unity, from choosing each other over power." Naira's mind reeled. This was impossible. The choice was insane. Keep the power and be unstoppable, or give it away and be ordinary. "How long do I have to decide?" she asked. "Until the next full moon." 3 days. The Luna wolf began to fade. "Choose wisely, little one. The fate of your kingdom rests on this decision." Naira woke, gasping. Kael was beside her instantly, his arms wrapping around her. "What is it? What's wrong?" She told him everything, the Luna wolf, the power, the impossible choice. When she finished, Kael was silent for a long time. "What do you want to do?" he finally asked. "I don't know." Naira's voice shook. "The power, Kael, it's incredible. I've never felt so strong, so alive. With it, I could protect you, protect the kingdom, make sure nothing ever threatens us again. But it feels wrong." She looked at him, searching his face. "The pack followed me not because I was powerful, but because I showed them compassion, because I chose mercy over revenge. If I keep this power, if I become some untouchable legend, I'll lose that. I'll lose what made them believe in me in the first place. Kale's hand cupped her face. Whatever you choose, I'll stand beside you. Powerful Luna or ordinary wolf, you're still mine. Still the woman who saved my life. That's all that matters. Is it? Nera whispered. You're an Alpha King. You need a strong Luna. I need you. Kale's voice was fierce, however that looks. Whatever form that takes. I don't care if you can tear down mountains or if you're just a silver wolf with a stubborn streak. You're my mate, my queen, and that's enough. Tears burned Nera's eyes. I don't deserve you. Too bad. You're stuck with me. He pressed his forehead to hers. So make whatever choice feels right in here. His hand moved to rest over her heart. I'll support it. Always. The next 3 days passed in a blur. Word spread about Nera's growing power. Wolves who doubted her before now watched with awe as she moved through the citadel, faster, stronger, more graceful than any wolf had a right to be. She could hear conversations from 3 floors away, could track scents across the entire kingdom, could shift between human and wolf forms in the span of a heartbeat. It was intoxicating and terrifying because with each passing hour, Nera felt herself changing, not just physically, but mentally. The power whispered seductive promises of safety, of dominance, of never being helpless or overlooked again. She could have everything, be everything. All she had to do was keep what had been given. But on the 3rd day, Nera found herself in the Citadel's orphanage. It was a place she had discovered during her time as a servant, a wing of the castle dedicated to children who'd lost their parents in battles or disasters. Omega pups, mostly. The ones no powerful families wanted to adopt. The forgotten ones, just like Nera had been. She sat with them now, these small, vulnerable wolves who watched her with wide, hopeful eyes. Is it true you were cast out? A little girl asked. Her name was Senna, and she couldn't have been more than 8. It's true, Nera said gently. But you're a queen now, another pup said, a boy named Finn. You have power, magic, you can do anything. Not anything, Nera corrected, just more than I used to. I wish I had power, Senna whispered. Then maybe someone would want me. The words hit Nera like a physical blow because she recognized that ache, that desperate hope that if you could just be special enough, strong enough, worth enough, maybe then you'd finally matter. But she'd been wrong. She hadn't mattered because of her power. She'd mattered because of her heart, her refusal to give up, her choice to show compassion even when the world had shown her none. The power hadn't made her worthy. She'd been worthy all along. You don't need power to be wanted, Nera said quietly. She gathered both pups close. You just need to be yourself. Brave, kind, stubborn enough to keep going even when everything seems impossible. That's what makes you special. Not magic, not strength, just you. Senna looked up at her with tears in her eyes. Do you really believe that? Nera smiled. I do, and I'm about to prove it. The full moon rose blood red over the citadel. The entire pack gathered in the courtyard. Thousands of wolves, all waiting to witness whatever was about to happen. Word had spread about Nera's power, about the choice she faced. Some hoped she'd keep it, become the legendary Luna their kingdom needed. Others feared what she might become if that much power corrupted her. Nera stood at the center of the courtyard, Kyle at her side. Elder Morna and the council formed a circle around them. You've made your decision? Morna asked quietly. I have, Nera said. The power thrummed through her veins, begging to be kept, to be wielded. She could feel its potential, the strength, the speed, the absolute certainty that nothing could ever hurt her again. It was everything she'd ever dreamed of as that cast-out Omega shivering in the snow. And it was everything she no longer needed. I'm giving it back, Nera announced. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Are you certain? Morna pressed. Once released, the power cannot be reclaimed. You'll be ordinary again. I was never ordinary, Nera interrupted. And neither is anyone else in this pack. We're all survivors, all fighters. And we don't need one legendary Luna to protect us. We need each other. She stepped into the sacred circle that had been prepared. The ancient runes blazed to life, responding to her presence. Nera closed her eyes and reached for the power coiled inside her. The silver fire that had saved Kyle, broken the curse, made her unstoppable, and she let it go. The release was like exhaling after holding her breath for 3 days. The power flowed out of her in silver streams, pouring into the earth, spreading through the ancient magic of the mountain, redistributing itself among every wolf in the pack. Not enough to make them legendary, but enough to make them stronger, faster, more resilient, enough to give them hope. Naira felt the power drain away until only her ordinary wolf remained, silver and stubborn and exactly enough. When she opened her eyes, the world looked different, duller, slower, human again. Well, as human as a mated wolf could be. She expected to feel loss, regret, the ache of giving up something precious. But all she felt was peace. "It's done," she whispered. Kael caught her as her legs buckled. "I've got you." "I know," Naira murmured. "You always do." The pack stared in stunned silence. Then, one by one, they began to understand what Naira had done. She'd sacrificed legendary power to strengthen them all, had chosen unity over dominance, had proven that leadership wasn't about being the strongest. It was about making everyone else strong. The applause started slowly, then built, then became a roar that shook the citadel walls. Wolves howled in celebration, in gratitude, in recognition of what their queen had given them. And as Naira stood there, ordinary again but held in her mate's arms, surrounded by a pack that finally, truly accepted her, she realized something profound. She'd spent years chasing worth, trying to prove she deserved to exist. But worth wasn't something you earned through power, or trials, or impossible feats. It was something you chose for yourself. And she chose to be worthy, not of a crown, not of a legend, just of love. 5 years later, Naira stood on the citadel walls, watching the sun rise over a kingdom transformed. The orphanage had grown into a school where young wolves learned that strength came in many forms. The council had been reformed to include wolves of all ranks, omegas, betas, even former rogues who'd proven their loyalty. And the laws had changed. No more casting out wolves for being different. No more dismissing omegas as worthless. No more rigid hierarchies that valued power over compassion. The kingdom was stronger, united, changed by a queen who'd chosen love over legend. Kael's arms wrapped around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. "Regrets?" he murmured. Naira smiled. "Not one. Even though you're not a legendary Luna anymore? I'm something better." She turned in his arms to face him. "I'm yours. And I'm theirs." She gestured to the kingdom spread below. "And that's more than enough." Kael's kiss was soft, grateful, full of 5 years of love and partnership and choosing each other every single day. "The delegates from the Southern Territories arrive tomorrow," he said when they parted. "They want to learn about our reforms, implement them in their own kingdoms." "Change is spreading," Naira mused. "Because of you. Because of us." She laced her fingers with his. "We did this together." Movement caught her eye. In the courtyard below, a group of young wolves were training, led by Senna, now 13 and fierce as any warrior. Finn practiced beside her, both of them strong and confident and seen. Worth it, Naira thought, every sacrifice, every trial, every moment of fear and pain and impossible choice, all worth it. "Come on," Kael said, tugging her hand. "The council is waiting. Something about another trade dispute you need to mediate." Naira groaned. "Being queen is so much paperwork." "Yeah, you love it." "I love you," she corrected. "The paperwork is just tolerable." They walked together through the citadel they'd saved, past wolves who bowed with genuine respect, through halls that rang with laughter instead of fear. And Naira, former outcast, servant girl, broken omega who'd become a queen not through power but through heart, knew she'd found exactly where she belonged, not on a throne, but beside the man she loved, in a kingdom they'd built together, surrounded by wolves who'd learned that true strength came from unity, compassion, and the courage to choose love even when power was easier. Years from now, stories would be told of the Alpha King and his Luna Queen, of battles won and curses broken, of mercy shown to traitors and kingdoms reformed. But the part they'd tell most often, the part that would echo through generations, was this. Once, there was a girl who had nothing, who was cast out and forgotten and told she was worthless. And she chose to prove them wrong not by becoming powerful, but by becoming kind. Not by dominating others, but by lifting them up. Not by taking everything she could, but by giving everything she had. And in doing so, she didn't just become a queen. She became a legend. Not the kind written in power and conquest, but the kind written in hearts changed, lives saved, and a kingdom forever transformed by one simple truth. Love can rewrite destiny. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose to be ordinary and prove that ordinary is more than enough.